Danny, if you only had 1 minute to give music artists the best advice you possibly could, what would you say? 1 minute on the clock.
Fan engagement, 2 words. I think that's the name of the game right now. Looking at how, all the different artists that we've worked with at SongTools, the ones that have the most success are the ones that really focus in beyond the vanity metrics, looking at things like save rate, followers. How do you actually grow a lasting fan base beyond just the overarching monthly listeners and streams? And that's becoming more and more important today with all these streaming platforms, social media platforms. It's how are you actually engaging people, whether that's through email lists, advertising campaigns, etc. So that's what I would focus in on. And there's ways to do that offline as well, right? Playing live, I say, is the number one best way to get fan engagement if your genre allows for it. I think that's you're never going to beat that. 1 minute. There we go.
Nailed it. Yeah, I think that's a great point because a lot of artists focused on the streams alone and the monthly listeners, and they don't pay attention to the engagement metrics like, say, playlist ads, followers, streams per listener, email list growth, how many followers are getting on socials, and all that jazz.
It's you're kind of like set up for it too. I mean, coming from like the artist side myself, and just when you release a song, it's like you're just sitting there refreshing Spotify for Artists or even SoundCloud or whatever you're putting it up on YouTube, and you're just seeing how many views, and you kind of get caught into. It's almost like a casino. Sometimes you get caught into that, whatever dopamine hit of getting those views, and you don't really think about the longer term. So that's something that even I've had to learn how to cope with it from coming from like releasing music, whether it's me or artists that I've managed and stuff as well. So I get it. The platforms are set up that way, but I think, and I'm seeing this more and more, artists are becoming more educated as to that side. And I think it's a great thing. And I think it's something that people like you have a really good role in also educating just the general public about it. So it's just super cool.
Yeah, well, thanks, man. Yeah, and we're gonna go through some of your background because I did I did some digging. I do some digging on every person I talk to in here, and you had a music blog that had
Yeah.
50,000 monthly visitors. You went to college for it seems like for music business or something adjacent. You were also a manager of other artists. You built one of the largest playlist networks in the world. So we're gonna go through that, but first, tell us all about a little bit about SongTools, kind of what artists can do with it, who it's for, and how it works.
Yeah. SongTools is a music marketing platform toolkit that basically simplifies both playlisting and advertising for a community of over 100,000 independent artists, music companies, labels, etc. So really what we've built is we call it like a one-click solution, which allows you to either get your song in front of a huge community of pre-vetted playlists that we've partnered with to basically expose your song to new listeners, or on the flip side with advertising, get your song into Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook ads in a way that's like super easy. So we actually craft the entire marketing campaign for you in one click. Like we'll take like the album cover, make a really cool AI generated visual, use your data to target that we've mapped out into like TikTok, Instagram, meta ads, and audiences, and basically get your song in front of new fans on those platforms to like stream your music on Spotify, Apple, etc. So it's a really cool way to automate some of the growth side so that you can, as an artist or as a label, focus in on like everything else you have to do, which is a lot. It's a big laundry list. So that's kind of our MO, is to, make tools that actually work and don't cost you an arm and a leg as an artist, so that you can come to a, awesome platform and get in front of new people.
Yeah, and let's cover both of those two main features individually. So there's the playlisting side and there's the ad side. So for the playlisting side, it's you work in a very unique way across all the competitors, so to speak, like from a Submit Hub or a Groover, or I guess even like a playlist push. where you're sending it and you're paying per individual curator to listen, and then they reject it with feedback. You don't do that. You also don't do the thing where like a like a bulk playlisting where you pay several $100s for X amount of guaranteed streams or coverage. You have this kind of, I don't think anyone else does it the way you guys do it, where you pay, what is it, either $5 or $10 a day for a certain period of time,
Hmm.
and then that exposes you to this whole network, and then curators add it or don't, and they give you feedback along the way. But how does it work behind the scenes, I guess,
Yeah.
in terms of like how are curators compensated? What kind of incentives do they have? And how does that ensure that like the playlisters and curators you have are adding songs to the right places and not botting their list and stuff like that?
Yeah. 100%. I mean, I came from the space. I've been doing playlisting since around 2017. So really, like, I've seen it from the earliest stages, helping artists, getting on independent playlists to where it is now. And what we wanted to do when we were building this tool was to make something that was different to everything else out there, because we thought some of the incentive structures were a little bit, you know, I would just say different, right, to what we wanted to see. Essentially, what we wanted was the curator to ultimately be in control, right? Because you want that curator to be able to curate a great list, because that's ultimately what you want on Spotify's good playlist that people want to listen to. So the way our system works is that we have a whole pool of music. We call it like the Netflix style discover page on our system, where a curator, when they log in, gets a whole basically like feed of music presented to them based off of their tastes. So if they're, a hard rock curator, they're going to get a bunch of hard rock tracks and hard rock adjacent tracks. And, there's thousands of songs in this ecosystem where they can actually listen to them freely, check out album covers, go to Spotify, like learn more about the artist. So essentially really curate and kind of discover music in a more organic way and place the ones they like and skip over the ones they don't like. So that was really like one of the biggest things for us, was to understand like how can we get back to that, right? Because on even just like other platforms, and even if you're just going solo as a curator, you're getting pitched and hit and solicited all the time by artists and labels, basically the entire music industry, trying to get on your playlist. And it can be like a lot of noise, as I'm sure you know, and just kind of like a headache to sort with, when at the end of the day, it's something that's kind of meant to be fun. Like if you're going to go out and create a cool playlist, like you want to be finding music and working with cool artists. And so we wanted to kind of get it back to that, is like get it back to, about the music, about the art. So that's why we kind of flipped it on its head, rather than making another inbox that people are just going to like bombard you with.
My ad agency also does some playlisting now, right? Like we have a list of curators that we work with, and some of them have one Spotify account, some of them have dozens and then hundreds of playlists that they control and whatever. But I only work with people who will hop on Zoom calls with, right? Like we're not going to work with someone if we can't talk, because like there's pretty close relationship that happens there between the curator and then the middleman, which in this case is us, and then the artist,
Mm,
to communicate with them on a frequent basis. But one time it actually caught a, a scammer, essentially. Like I was talking to
no
this,
way.
he did hop on a Zoom call, and he basically just lied to my face for 30 minutes, and very convincing, by the way, which was the most shocking part of this. This was several years ago too, but the thing that got him caught was I was asking him how he was marketing his playlists, and he said he was using Google Ads, and I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
no fucking way you're using Google Ads to do this. And he was like, no, I'm definitely using Google Ads. Like if that's the case, like I've been doing this a long time, and I've never figured out a valid, like a good, reliable, consistent strategy for growing playlists with Google Ads. And then basically from there, I just asked a few other people I knew about this person. Turns out he used to work with another playlisting company as like a person who like managed the list and like contacted curators. He quit that company, stole their curator list,
Wow.
and was trying to resell it to other entities that he could work with. And so it was like he basically just lied to my face for 30 minutes. But like that's the kind of thing that if you did it over email, he'd probably get away with it, right? And
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and I think it goes as far back as the music industry, right? Is like, people and in any industry, but like it's just, I think that's one of the lessons takeaways, like if you're like an artist listening to this as well, is like make sure the people that you're surrounded by on all aspects, right? Whether it's like management, publishing, marketing, labels, etc. Like, there's a lot of people out there now with that, like the music industry is like completely democratized. I think not only from the artist side, but also all those other sides. Just we've seen such a huge amount of like small music companies that are like less than 5 people, I call it. Usually it's like 1 or 2 people that are running like, distribution platforms, publishing platforms, things like that. So you got to make sure that the people you're around obviously aren't scammers, but also on like taking it a step further, actually like align with your goals as an artist, because sometimes they're thinking they're trying to do something else than what you're trying to do as an artist. So I think that's something that I'm seeing a lot, is just a mismatch sometimes of different artists working with certain companies and stuff like that.
yeah, so that kind of covers the playlisting half of Song Tools, but you also have this automated ads tool, which is also unique from how a lot of other companies do it too. Which so of course, not to just point out all of your competitors, but once again, there's like Hyped It and Smart Noise who have these automated ads tools. But the way those work is they have to connect to their Facebook account on their back end, and they have to have that set up where they have an ad account and they have a pixel. And there is a little bit of configuration they have to do. Those platforms do obfuscate a lot of the details, but you still go in and you choose like your country selections and your targeting, and there's some level of control. And from my understanding, the way that you guys operate, and I'm sure this has changed a lot over the years, for the ad campaigns, one, you run them through your Facebook accounts, so the artist doesn't actually need anything. They don't even need to have their own Facebook account or Facebook page or an Instagram account. No social media required. I believe they can go in and customize certain aspects of the campaign, but they can for the most part just kind of just click continue, 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 and then just let you guys do everything for them. And within, I think it was like under 2 minutes, you could kind of get something up and running. I don't know if I'm sure you've timed it, but
Yeah, yeah. It varies, but yeah, it's around there. Um,
yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the main. So just backing up a little bit, like leaving off at the playlisting side, that we launched that in 2020. So we've also been doing that for a while, and we've grown that. Actually, I don't think I mentioned this, but like over 100,000 playlists, over 150 million combined followers among all the playlists that we work with. So
Wait.
that
How many playlists did you just say?
100,000.
Holy shit, that's a lot
Yeah,
of playlists.
it's a lot of playlists. We've been doing it for a while. It's kind
Jeez.
of, yeah, this is what I was saying. So that was going really well, and that's still our main thing, and we're doing really well there. And so what ended up happening maybe around 2022, right? Like 2 years into the whole thing, we're talking to a lot of our users and we're learning about them, right? Because our goal is to innovate and make new tools. And what they were all like, the common thread after all these conversations was really, uh, hey, I want to get more fans is kind of like the main takeaway, which playlisting was it kind of does it, but not really. And that's what we learned after operating this business for a while and really learning about the people and their problems, is like they need something a little bit that takes it, playlisting gets you there, but they need a little bit more of a push. And so ads became kind of like the common denominator among all the conversations of artists that were doing it. And that this actually led me to learn about your channel, but artists that were doing it and doing all these things, but they were either number one spending too much time like trying to figure it out, number two running things without the right knowledge, right? So doing like traffic campaigns to like just a link that obviously is never going to work.
Yeah.
And also or having to hire like larger scale agencies that for a lot of artists can work, obviously, if you have the budget for it, but there's millions, I mean over 100 million music creators out there
Yeah.
the vast majority of them don't have, $3,000 to spend on, a marketing agency. So we were
Yeah.
like,
A lot of them, a lot of them don't even have a few $100s, right? I mean, like
exactly.
there's
Yeah.
there's a lot more, in the grand scheme of things, there's a ton of artists who can justify spending $50. And then there's another, like a way smaller amount that can justify 500, and there's a way smaller amount that can justify like several thousand.
Yeah.
And so that's a problem that my ad agency faces all the time. Is there's a certain amount of money where it's just not worth it for them, or it's not worth it for us, or both. And if you go under that, it's like, well, what do you do? It's like, okay, well, learn how to do it yourself. But that's not possible or desirable for every single artist. Like I always recommend, like, learn the stuff yourself because you have way more control. And even if you outsource, at least you'll understand it. But having done this for, taught 3,000 plus artists how to do
Yeah.
this and run thousands of ad campaigns and doing this over the 5 years, there's some people that they're just never going to learn it. They don't have the time, they don't have the resources, whatever. And I think that's where the SongTools ad thing fits perfectly. Yeah, and it's not just Facebook/Instagram ads. You also do TikTok ads.
Yep. Yeah. TikTok as well. That one was a bit of a challenge to figure out the right setups because
Yeah,
obviously very different. I'm sure you know it. A lot of weird clicks come through TikTok
yeah,
compared to Meta. I would say it in a nice way, but we figured out a few ways to kind of mitigate that. And I mean, one of the really cool things we've done is on a song page, which is essentially like our version of like a link tree, a link fire, whatever you want to call it. It's completely free, so any artist can go in and make one of those for free.
mhm,
But when you run an ad campaign through our system, it has to use our landing page because we actually look at IP addresses, user agents in real time of the campaign that's coming in. So we can actually see like, okay, there's 30 random clicks coming from like a remote village in Colombia, let's say, right? And obviously that's not it. Oh, in 0.3 seconds. Like when we were testing it, we would see that and be like, all right, this is clearly like not a real thing. So we've built in like a feedback system with our landing page so that when it detects some abnormal clicks, it will actually automatically turn off that ad set running that or just that country within the ad set or city that's sending those, and basically put it in timeout and then let the budget run with other cities and stuff. So I mean, in the testing that we did when we were developing it, it's actually around like 20 to 30% performance boost in terms of like conversion cost on Meta specifically. So it's like you get a lot of bot clicks, and we learned a lot through this company actually, which I don't know if you know them. It's called ClickCease.
oh
They're
yeah, yeah.
yeah, they do they do
There's
it
a few
for
companies like that, but they're one of the ones that the whole point of them is to audit ad networks, right?
yeah. Yeah, that's a really good one because I know, like, I mean, some of the people on watching your channel definitely run ads on their own.
Yeah, yeah,
And when we put that on our ads, we were like, whoa, that's crazy. And then we were like, decided to actually essentially build a version of that ourselves, which is what SongPage does. So that's something to 100, like, just take away, I guess, for artists watching it, like, 100% look into that because especially if you're running bigger budgets, it can be a substantial amount of money you save by integrating
yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, I've worked with a lot of artists who their number one thing is just touring and shows, and they don't give a shit about Spotify. The only
Yeah,
reason they're
exactly.
promoting it is
But they
because
need it. They need it.
they
Yeah,
need it.
yeah,
Because like they'll literally get denied from shows or get paid less in their guarantee because of the size of their audience on Spotify, which in reality has essentially no bearing on what type of crowd they can draw in a given city. Uh,
exactly.
but that is just the reality. And I've had so many people tell me this, that it's not just a fluke. It's an actual industry thing, and usually it's Spotify followed by either TikTok or Instagram numbers.
Hmm.
If you have a huge audience in Spotify and then no social media following whatsoever, that could be enough, but it might not be enough. And if you just have a big thing on social media but you have nothing on Spotify, that same kind of problem can happen. Um, so some artists, their strategy is like, let's run some ads or do some playlisting, grow our Spotify numbers, also grow our social media numbers as much as possible.
Yeah.
And the only really objective is to improve the amount of revenue they can make as a touring band, which totally valid strategy, right? It makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. And it depends by genre too, because then you get like, for example, a DJ where it's like electronic releases are generally like singles, and they're like their goal is to also maximize streams like per single, but in a different way because a lot of them are looking for like revenue and different things like that. So you can kind of approach each genre and each release in a way that like works there, and I think that's one of the things that ads as well can really help with because a lot of the times you get I mean one of the things I know that you do, which something that we're working on as well, is like playlist growth as well.
Yeah.
So like for example like an electronic artist, like going back to that example, I think for them the ROI is even higher if they were to kind of create their own playlist, drive ads to that playlist, and basically put their all of their old releases and future releases on it.
Mhm.
That we've seen work really well in terms of like doing actually both of the things, like increasing monthly listeners and picking up some fans like that will latch on. And then you have that asset like for years to come, usually, assuming you can keep it active. I think it's like it's a really under or slept on kind of tool that people don't use.
Yeah, very genre dependent, but if you're doing instrumental music, then
Yeah,
promoting it inside of your own playlist that you're running ads on can often be better than promoting individual songs. But it's completely different if it's like a pop song or a rock song. And then a lot of electronic artists, like you just mentioned, it can also be a similar thing. Sometimes the individual songs make more sense, but sometimes the playlist direction makes sense, especially if the artist or label wants to become a curator of sorts or use their playlist as kind of an incentive for their label artists, because they might grow these lists and then they can add all these other artists in their label or friends circle in too. But then also they could go on platforms like Submit Hub and Groover, Playlist Push, and SongTools, etc. And now
monetize.
monetize their playlist, and then that kind of is like a feedback loop for them, where like we're promoting this playlist, our music's in it, but we're not spending our own money to run the ads anymore because we're just getting 100% of the money we're making from these things and we're feeding it right back into the playlist. And then all their music's in the playlist, so they make the actual profit margin off of like the streaming revenue, and then the money they get from the curating platforms just kind of covers the cost of the ad spend. And I've seen like, I don't know, 100 artists probably do that.
A hundred
um,
percent. Yeah.
and
And beyond that too, like labels. I mean, think about it from a label perspective. I mean, look at like Strange Fruits, right? It's
yeah,
like the largest independent playlist network out there, and they did it all through ads and also just signing tracks, or I guess in some cases also like making tracks that they would then eventually place onto their own playlist, scale the artist, and then it just becomes like a feedback loop as well, which
yeah,
is super. Like, I mean, again, going back to your point about it's never been a better time. Like, it's like, when else could you as an artist essentially like launch and control your own, I guess, like almost like radio station, or like distribution channel like for your own music. It's pretty crazy that you can do that. So that for us is like a huge goal of in 2025, is to launch out this,
yeah.
we're calling it Playlist Fly. Like Songfly are makes your song grow. Playlist Fly will make do essentially everything we're discussing in one click. So you'll basically feed it a playlist link, and then it'll make a ad automated about your playlist, target the right listeners, grow it in
Mm.
whatever geographies you want to grow it in. And it's a really, I mean, we've run tests so far, and we've been able to grow over 600,000 followers onto the playlist that we've tested. So it's been extensively tested across like a lot of different genres, and we're excited. I think that's coming, first half of 2025, and should be available to like our artist users, label users, and curator users. So we're really excited about that.
Pivoting to some of your like background info, which I found is very interesting. So like, I guess we'll do it in reverse, just from what I have listed. You built one of the first and largest playlist networks in the world, which you said was 2017. How'd that come about? And like,
Yeah,
why did you even do that at the time? You know?
yeah. I was working with a friend at the time. I was probably like freshman or sophomore in college at NYU, and it's funny. He started this agency, working with SoundCloud repost trading. At the time, that was like a big thing.
Yeah.
And
That's funny how like irrelevant that is now, but that was like
yeah,
huge
huge.
thing.
Yeah,
Even up in, I don't know, maybe it started dying off in like 2020 or 2019 or something.
100%. It was the biggest thing back then, especially electronic music. I remember
Yeah.
even rap and hip hop as well. Like it was huge. And so I learned about it that way. I came from an artist background. So I've been playing guitar since I was in the second grade. Growing up, I had different garage band, indie rock bands that I ended up, it was really cool. We ended up producing, two albums in our garage with them that at the time we thought sounded great.
Yeah.
And then I also ended up producing for my friend who was a rapper. And he, we ended up like, he started this company that I ended up working with him on. And that's how I got into the marketing space, because I'm coming from production. I went to college to study music production. I eventually switched
Mm.
to music business, but that was really like my first foray into music marketing, and I learned a lot about SoundCloud reposts and just the independent artist space as a whole, which I was like, this is crazy, because I always found growing up, I always found it very easy to like, in a way, to like make music. Like you had GarageBand, eventually Ableton, eventually like all these things that you could put ideas down, mix and master them, and in a way just get them up, and YouTube to learn how to do all that, right? So then came the part of like getting it in front of people, and I was completely like just like lost, right? I would upload a bunch of stuff onto SoundCloud and YouTube and just get zero views, and see other bands and be like, how do they go from that zero to 100,000 or whatever? And I was always, very confused as to that whole side, until I got into the space and started like really understanding it. And so we started with SoundCloud reposting, and then at the time, a lot of the clients were asking about Spotify playlisting, and so we ended up kind of growing that side of the business a lot. And that was really where I learned all about that. That side ended up going into United Masters, like at the time in school, to do like a kind of like an internship there, where I did a lot of playlist pitching and independent playlisting for them, and learned even more there from the distribution side of things. So I'm coming kind of from that background of like independent artists and distribution. And I really saw just such a huge amount of demand. Like it was crazy, because it was like everyone and their mother had a song to kind of like get that they wanted to get heard, or
Yeah.
everyone's cousin is a DJ, like things like that. And I was like, okay, it's clear that the agency model, it works great if you're like, trying to create a business, but like think about the 100 million artists out there. How can you serve all of them, right? Because that's really where the industry was going. It's like, how do you make the Ableton of music marketing, or the GarageBand of music marketing? And so that was kind of what led me into this path, is just that kind of level of thinking, and just realization across the board of being like, there's just a mass amount of people doing this, and even more now with AI.
Yeah, just a mic drop. Just start another tangent. I guess on that note, on the your from your perspective, it really doesn't matter where the song originated. All that matters is that it's a song that it is allowed to be on like a streaming platform, right? Like, so you guys don't have to be the arbiters of like what's allowed and not. And that's on the perspective that I take in my ad agency. When someone sends us a song, it's like, do we think we can get a good result with it? We
Yeah,
kind of don't care about, like, do we personally enjoy it? Do we agree with the messaging of the lyrics? Do we agree with how the song was made? Like that stuff, for the most part, like my kind of direction for all the people on my team was, I don't want to like play God with people's music.
yeah,
We like,
yeah,
if we don't think we can do it, let's turn it down so we save them the hassle. But like, If it's like AI and the lyrics are about some political stance that we don't agree with, it's like, who? That's not our job. Our job is
Yeah.
to promote the music. And
Get it to the people that agree with that political stance, perhaps,
yeah,
right? Like that's, yeah, yeah,
or people who like who are fine listening to AI generated music, because there's people who love it and there's people who hate it. And so
yeah,
that's kind of my stance. So I'd assume from your stance, it's more or less the same. It's just like you're the platform, you're the pipes, which I've heard you reference that before. You're the tool, you're the platform, and artists come, and as long as like your ads can get approved in Facebook Ads Manager, as long as your curators have a spot for that song, you know,
yep.
you're just the one enabling all of that.
Yeah, I think like the way we view it is even as like it's that, and then also just simplifying it too, right? Because it's like from an ads perspective, that artist was going to run on Meta anyways, and they were
Yeah,
going to spend their time, figuring it out. So it's like, let us help you do that, and then you can go out and do a lot more stuff. And I think for me, AI music is really interesting. I mean, I know that it's kind of controversial, but I think from our perspective, we've seen actually AI music perform really well in terms of like running through our ads and even on playlisting. It's like a lot of the times we get some AI music that completely like, I'm talking like 2x better, cost per actions or like conversion rates on landing pages compared to like similar artists in the same genre, which is pretty scary in a way.
I
But
have an AI
yeah,
metal project, which I made a video about. If I can remember, I'll link it somewhere in the thing on YouTube. But um, the artist, I think now is like 20 something thousand monthly listeners, but it peaked at like 32,000 monthly listeners. Promoted with ads, very minimal social media content, but I made the music with Suno. I made the artwork with Midjourney. I made the videos with Stable Diffusion, and I ran Facebook ads on it, and like people freaking love it. Like I'm
yeah,
having DM conversations with fans, and they're telling me how much they love the music. It's like their favorite new project.
yeah,
So it's like, do they know it's AI? No, some of them I'm sure probably do. Um, so what, like personally, what I think is that either AI music shouldn't be allowed on all these DSPs, or it should be tagged in some way so that
yeah.
the fans know that it's at least if it's like just like type in a prompt, export, throw on the platform. Like there's a difference between that and like the people who actually like make art with AI. It's like a
Yeah,
completely different world. I think that stuff should be flagged so that the people like know like, oh, this is AI music, but I don't care because I like it, right?
yeah,
And like some of those AI songs end up, they can be bangers, right?
a
As an
100%.
artist, it kind of hurts to
Yeah,
say that, but like from like the marketing and business side, it's like, you know, if people enjoy it and it's doing well and they're clicking on it, it's like who is anyone to say that like they shouldn't listen to that, right?
yeah. And I think from like the artist perspective too, it can be a little bit like discouraging sometimes to hear stuff like that, and even
Yeah,
just to like have to compete against a robot making music, which is kind of just in a way dumb. But I
yeah,
think the the difference is always just going to be like the human element. I think you can't like I don't think it'll ever replicate that. I mean, if you put on just, an amazing record or anything like that, you could just clearly hear the distinction, and I don't think it's like that soul aspect that it's you can't replicate it. So same with AI generated like visual art. Like you can kind of in a way tell a lot of the times, and I think that holding on to that as an artist is important. And then also using AI to your advantage is also very important because it is a huge creative assistant. Like coming from like the production side and even just like, I mean, chord progressions, I think is like a huge thing. A lot of people use it for where it's like, like you have a loop, right? And it's like whatever, a specific like 4-bar loop, and you want to like create the B section or the C section, and you maybe don't know how. I mean, there's actual plugins out there that do it and help you kind of like create new chord progressions. But one use case is like I've used ChatGPT to actually plug in the chords I'm writing, and then I'm like, write me a B section, a bridge, things like that for songwriting. It's actually really good and impressive, and you can use that as a base, build on top of it. The same way, people have been doing forever in the music industry. I mean, if you look at like cover songs, it's been like the longest running thing of just like artists copying each other and then samples and all of that. So it's all, what you make of it, right? I think is the most important thing.
The plugin companies and the DS the DAW companies like Ableton and stuff like start in court like having like actually sophisticated AI song creation tools. Like,
Yeah.
for example, I record a guitar riff and I can click like generate bass MIDI, and then like it listens to my guitar riff, and I have like a MIDI bass library which I already use in my
Yeah. Yeah.
recordings. Like I'll program the bass. Sometimes I'll record it for real, but like there's a lot of times when the MIDI bass sounds better than the human recorded bass
Yeah.
just because of the in metal it's like a common production thing where you'll go between real bass and MIDI bass. But like listen to this, generate MIDI bass, and it's just like okay, this is what a bassist in this genre might do, and then it maybe generates 10 versions, and I just kind of quickly listen to each 10, pick the favorite I like. Because in the end of the day, is it going to affect the listener at all if I waste, I don't want to call it waste, but if I spend like an hour of my time manually doing the bass riff
Oh yeah. Yeah.
versus having it spit out? Because like it's in the genre, how I work, the bass is not very important. I mean, sorry to all the bassists out there, but and for other genres, like the guitar is not important, or
Yeah.
the drums are not important. Like they're all important, but it's like they're not the focus. If you're a singer songwriter and you can play some keys and you can sing, it's like what if you could record just your voice and some keyboard,
Yeah.
and then like generate guitar, bass, drums, and now you have like a solid demo, and you can go hire a real person to like handcraft it and get it to the final vision.
And so we were talking about world building. Now, business building from the perspective of an artist is at its core those like fan engagement things. Going back to the
Yeah.
beginning, right? It's like you need to be able to find a way to capture the fan and own the fan, which I think there's so many platforms out there solving for this. And like you just mentioned an example of like UMG investing in one, but there's so many out there where you can actually like drive email engagement, phone number engagement, things like that, where you can essentially like contact the fans directly and really talk with them and own them and say, hey, I'm going to be in your city playing live. And I think independent artists, like, you need to kind of find the right time to do it, because when it's too early, it's not, it's this, honestly, for me, like similar to pre-saves. Like I think for independent artists, pre-saves, and I know a lot of people out there focus on it, but like I've always had the take that like you have limited asks to people, and if you're gonna ask for something, like I'd much rather you give me an email, or follow me on Instagram or do something like, which I know sometimes you can kind of pair them up and get the pre-save plus collect the email, stuff like that. But I think for independent artists, finding the right time to dive into the actual fan collection stuff is important. But working your way up to that really is where you start like paving the way into like owning your, like running a business rather than just like a Spotify page that you collect some royalties on, because then you can start selling merch and like doing stuff like that. Hopefully, if you get enough people to like really, catch on. And that's kind of where our funnel comes in. We always say it's like playlisting, advertising, and then at the end, monetization, which comes later down the line through merch, concert tickets, NFTs if you want, like stuff like that, which is really cool to see. I mean, like an example I can think of that's like out of the box too is like like Tame Impala, like Kevin Parker from Tame Impala is launching a pretty sick looking like synth. I forgot the company that he's doing it with, but like that's, I mean, very like long term play. Obviously, right? Because Tame Impala has been grinding for a while, but that's a really cool example of something a little bit outside of just the like classic t-shirt concert ticket type of thing to help monetize. But it makes a lot of sense because so many of their fans are these like type of like producers and songwriter type people. So things like that I think are really important.
Yeah, and I think what it comes down to is at the end of the day, there's only two ways to make your business better or your artist career better, from the perspective of like gaining fans and marketing. Is one, get your cost per fan acquisition down as low as possible,
Yeah.
or two, get your value per customer acquisition as high as possible, and ideally
Yeah.
both. And it's hard to do as an artist just because like everything in the music industry is so hard to track and there's no accountability anywhere, and you sometimes wonder if you're even being paid for what you actually got you deserve
Yeah.
in the first place. Like nothing's transparent, everything's opaque. But from a business perspective, and like I'll give you my example, I when I was used to run ads to promote one of my courses, I was just looking at the revenue from that one course sale. But what I noticed over time is, well, one, I have it in a funnel. So a certain percentage of people buy a second course, a certain percentage
Hmm.
of people buy a third course. So just for that funnel, the value is not the price of that first product. It's the overall average value of the funnel. Then outside of that, a certain percentage of people who will get a course or several may come to me for one-on-one help and consulting calls, or they may come to my ad agency at some point, or they may watch my YouTube videos, or they may do whatever. And all of those things can be added up and tallied, and I can look at like how much money did this business bring in, how many customers do I have in my list, and I can divide it out, and I come up with an average uh, value per lead, which is just people
Mm.
on my list, or average value per customer, which is the money per people who have actually given me a transaction at some point. And artists, I think, should do that, because there's a saying that I don't remember who it's from, but whoever can afford to spend the most on their ads wins. I think it was
Yeah.
Russell Brunson or something from ClickFunnels that he was like, if I can justify spending $200 per conversion, and you can only justify spending $100 per conversion, the whoever can afford to spend more money will win
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they can effectively spend infinite money.
Yeah, they can
And
outpace you. Yeah. Yeah, and like use the momentum to do other stuff that gives them more momentum, right? Because it's like in theory, those ads are getting me fans. Those fans can come out to my shows.
yeah,
That means more revenue for me, which increases my fan lifetime value, which feeds back into like so it's kind of like I think that's how like successful. I mean, and a lot of the times in like in practice what ends up really happening is you get like a break, right? Like you either get on a huge Spotify playlist or you get a look online, like you go viral somehow on TikTok, like things like that, which really accelerate the whole process, and then like a label comes in and takes it and figures all of this out for you.
right,
um I like that's typically what happens, but there's also on the flip side, artists that I mean, a really cool artist that we work with is called Kid Travis. He's worked with us for like a really long time,
yeah.
and I mean, he's
I've actually back when I used to curate on Submit Hub, I interact with him a whole bunch actually.
yeah, yeah,
He's
no,
huge
they're
now. I think back then he had I don't know, like 20,000 monthly listeners or something. Now he has 400,000.
yeah, and I think he peaked out at like 3 million last year or something like
Yeah.
crazy because he had one song go viral, like Strawberry Skies,
Strawberry
I think it was.
Skies. That's the one I
Yeah,
playlisted a ton on my lists. But
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's an amazing song, and he's an awesome artist, and I think like well, I think one of the examples with him is like they've been able to like grow it sustainably in a way, which I think is really cool to look at. And there's a bunch of other ones as well that we've worked with that like it's not necessarily. I mean, they did have that one song go pretty viral, but like beyond that, it's like they found a way to really make it work so that it's like a sustainable business. And I think so. I think there are people out there doing it. Um, and it's cool to see. It's hard to know which route you're going to take as an artist, right? Like when it's early stage, but it's important to like have all of these concepts and like
yeah.
frameworks so that you can like kind of navigate it in the right way so that you're not like just throwing money down the drain and trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to know as an artist, like what revenue sources are you going to try and tap into, which ones you're going to skip. And then, do your accounting regularly.
Yeah, 100%.
Even just like personally, look at like what you're spending and what you're bringing in. And then also for your business, do it too. Cause I every month I have to do my own accounting. I probably could outsource it, but because I fucking hate doing it.
Yeah.
for my, but it's like the value in it is I get to see like every month it's like which things are bringing me money, where did it come
Yeah.
from, which things did I spend money, who did it go to, and then I kind of gives you a chance to reflect, and then also like you kind of have all these numbers handy for what is my fan LTV this month, where did that revenue come from, etc., and I can kind of adjust accordingly by having to kind of have your finger on the pulse of your business or your artist project. It's the same thing, whether it's a business or you're an artist thing. It's like a lot of artists don't see themselves as businesses, but
Yeah.
they are.
Yeah.
What's your last minute pitch to people to come check out Song Tools? What do you get to say?
Yeah. I mean, you know, please visit our site. It's free to join. So you can go on to songtools.com, songtools.io, create an artist account, create a label account. We have a bunch of free tools first and foremost. Like our song page is free, where we have like the landing page builder. Song blog is free, where you can create blogs about your music, almost like Reddit AMA style. You can obviously run paid campaigns through us. We have 50% off right now, and what we can do for your channel is even do 60% off. So it's better than the entry level that people are going to be getting direct if they go direct. So that will also hopefully be in the comments or in the description. First time doing that. No, but I think so. Please check it out. And I think one of our goals at Song Tools is to kind of be reachable. Like we want you to be able to talk to a person if you're running on our system or have questions about it. So you can reach out to me. My email is danny@songtools.io, which you can also put in the description. I answer every email usually that comes through my inbox. So shoot me an email. If you have questions, we can jump on a call. We also do like 30-minute marketing consultations completely free. So you can, tell us about your goals as an artist, and we can say, hey, we think you should use this tool. We think this should be your budget, things like that. Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, it's like, looking forward to connecting with everyone. And I'm such a big, I've told Andrew this off podcast, but like I've been such a big fan of his YouTube channel, and I consider myself one of the viewers of the channel. So it's really cool getting the chance to be on here and hopefully connecting with other viewers of the channel.
Yeah, well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. And yeah, everyone, click those links in the description. Hit up Danny. Try out Song Tools. And yeah, thanks for watching, everyone.
Thank you.